Good. Hi everyone, Simon from Horoma Studio for a new teardown of my own work. Today we're going to deal with an interesting project, which is a school in Belgium. By interesting, I mean that it was quite bad, and it was mainly because of me. So, like, in retrospect, I kind of feel sorry actually, because the images really didn't do justice to the project that was actually quite interesting, and they were like, I would do so many things differently if I were to redo the project today that I feel good because I know that I've like gained experience and knowledge and whatever, but I feel bad because I'm like, how did I manage to do like images like that and feel sort of okay? I still do think though that I was not really convinced by the final outcome, so that's a good thing for me but not for the client. So yeah, let's get started. I have basically some stuff to show, but you'll see it's going to be mostly about a proper teardown. I think like where I'm going to go through what is going wrong with like the images. I might not cover the three of them, but at least one or two, I think. So yeah, let's get started. So here we are, that's the project. One of the main things that was interesting with the project is that there was a really specific cladding system that was like a perforated metal, and the shape of the facade was actually quite interesting because it was not flat at all. So that was an interesting point. There was like a bit of vegetation, blah blah blah. It was a really weird, let's say, urban area with like those two huge towers, whereas here the front was like small terrace houses, so quite weird. And as I said, it was like a school. Here's the back view. So from a sort of like infrastructure here with like a big road, so we were overlooking this part, and then this part is like the whole entrance, which is basically around here. So we would have like this really nice staircase and a pretty cool patio or like atrium in the middle with like a sort of a stair system where you can sit and enjoy and have lunch, etc. Where basically a lot of things that you just don't see in the images, which is the sad part. The only thing to my defense is that the photos were quite constraining. I can show you. Where can I show you? Here. These were the side photos that I had. Now that I see them, I can see there were like other stuff that could have been done, but still we went with like really point of views that were quite far from the project, and I think that was the main mistake I did, or we did, but I want to say I, because they were quite open clients and they were like listening to what I was saying. So if I had like more like a stronger opinion on where we should have put the camera, maybe they would have been okay. As you can see, there were like some options here as well that were quite interesting for the point of view that could have been maybe used in a better way for the integration. One thing also that I'm seeing now is that, but I didn't really have the knowledge back then, because this is almost 3 years ago, like almost 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. So of course there was stuff that I already knew how to do back then, but I was still like a lot of compositing stuff and how to basically pick element in a photo and reshape them in 3D to actually slightly move your camera is something I only know how to do now, but I was definitely not able to do it back then. So yeah, that was the series of photos. And now that I see them, I actually picked, like, there was like slight variations in some of them, and I think I always picked the wrong one. So that's really, yeah, it's just not a good job, Simon. Another thing I can show you quickly as well is this. This is just like a sort of quick point of view exploration, and again, point of view exploration of like stuff that could have been done. There were like details that I was starting to work on, like all the variations of the inside point of view that I think was a tricky one because the shape was really weird, And I knew what I wanted to emphasize, which was like this stair and the outside, but there was something that for some reason wasn't quite there at the moment, or at the time, and still at the moment actually. So all that kind of really small test. This one was a pretty interesting one. It's kind of a shame we didn't go with it, but for sure I think it was not the best one because we couldn't read the staircase system, which was kind of a big selling point. So that kind of stair that you can see here. So yeah, kind of it was a hard project in the sense that even though the how can I say, the project itself was really interesting and like spatially really seducing, there were like a lot of stuff to like take into account, and it was a lot to process, I think. So if we look at the image now, so we went for that. The brief, as I said, was to emphasize the facade system and basically the program, I guess. So if we go to like just the composition aspect, I think the framing is okay. I mean, it's a pretty standard framing, but it's not a bad framing. There are a couple of things that I think make it not work. The first one is the overall lighting. Just in terms of natural lighting, you can see that there's like an issue of like contrast, for instance, between these two. And the thing is that this building, in terms of contrast, almost looks like it's in front of this one. So it makes it like a weird relationship. So what should have been done is to lighten this guy and darken a little this guy, and maybe go with a slightly different shade for the cladding system, so that we actually get a better grasp of the depth. Another thing I think, but it's just the general treatment of the photograph, is that it's super desaturated. And this is an issue I had early when I started, where I used to, I remember that I had like stuff that were overly saturated and sort of like overcompensated that for a while, for at least like a year and a half. I used to desaturate my images way too much. Now I think I've reached a balance where stuff looked natural. But here you can see everything is like bluish and desaturated, and it just doesn't look good. So this is something I would definitely do different today. The thing is, we have like obviously a sort of like weird overcast weather. So basically there was, it's not the most selling point. And at the same time, the interesting thing is that overcast weather works quite well with that type of facade, where there's something you need to red, like several layers need to be red, because if you have like a too strong sun, you're basically not going to have any depth, and everything is going to be reflecting, and everything is going to look flat. Whereas here, the good thing is that you can actually read the second facade, or the second layer of the facade, more easily. The thing is that I was stupid enough not to actually play with the artificial lighting, because for some reason we can, which is a valid point, but still, I was thinking it's weird to have artificial lighting in a building at that time of the day. But the thing is that you can sort of reshape the lighting in Photoshop to make it look like it's slightly later, so that it makes sense that you're going to have actually lighting inside. And this would look tremendously different, because the issue with this image is that everything is extremely cold, so it's not an inviting image. And if you had like slightly more desaturated or bluish, but like different surrounding, and had like a more like with like a warm lighting inside, this would look more inviting, and this would actually become more the point of focus of your image. Because at the moment, I won't say it's like perfectly integrated, because it's not, but it is like everything is homogeneous in terms of shade, of hue, of contrast, or whatever. Everything is the same. So your building doesn't stand out, except by the fact that it's a new building. I mean, so you sort of look at it, but there's no like real point of focus that makes you look at it, except this really bad logo here that I let be like way too saturated. One thing also that could have been nice is that this lighting thing could have emphasized the entrance here. So this is like, there are many things that needed to be changed. This car here, for instance, which could look like it's not a problem, but it's extremely dark, and the contrast here, I think, make it look like even darker, which is not what you want. And then there's like small details, like all this shitty grass everywhere. So even though it's like not that bad, but like I think the issue I having is like with this one, where basically it's just too, I don't know, it doesn't look clean enough. And I'm not saying like, because I'm never really after like clean image, because I like stuff that look more realistic. But there's like a balance to find that I think I didn't quite grasp at the time, between like realistic image and like image that sell, and an image that sort of like find a balance between what is really gonna happen and still something, how can I say? Like something that is, yeah, realistic, but still something that has like this sort of dirt stuff happening that you do want. So yeah, quite bad. And like my vegetation was like way too dark, and here it was happening weirdly. So not that good. So I think the idea also that could have been nice is to actually, I think that's a good trick, is if you have like an image that is like a base photo that is a bit not bad, but I mean like you kind of want to get rid of it, is to fake a sort of fog or like aerial perspective and sort of make it slightly more than it should be in real life, so that this guy would go further and maybe this guy as well would go further, so that my building here stands out more. And if I start adding like artificial lighting here, then it would start to actually kick ass and be like, yeah, nice, and stand out more. So yeah, the lighting here was really poorly managed on my side, and it sucks. One thing also that I think was not done properly is the entourage, or the animation of the image in general. I mean, the thing is, it's a freaking school, and there's like maybe 15 people. So it's a bit like, I'm not saying, well, actually I'm saying there should be way many more people. At least like this idea of having like more gatherings, and maybe I should have proposed, which is stuff that I do now, is like I'm more, let's say, open, or not even open, but like confident in proposing design things, because I know that architects don't have like the time to how can I say, focus on like small details in their projects, because they're still like focusing on like other parts. And basically here there's like a need for benches and like actual public furnitures, or public space furnitures, which is lacking here. So maybe there would have been like opportunities to have like people sitting around the building and have like more this gathering approach. And maybe actually, I think the thing I would do nowadays is to actually just remodel the whole fucking street here, and have like the thing being slightly differently done. And maybe I could get like a bit of a reflection punctually if we say maybe there's a bit of water or whatever, because people like that, and why not? So that's the trick, I think. In terms of colors, I said everything is desaturated. You can notice it if I do, not if I do this, but if I do that. You can see that, whoops, not you. You can see that the building here is just basically dead, and everything is super homogeneous. So it's not the most, and this guy that fucking stands out so much, it's just not, no, it's just a big no. So yeah, not good. So yeah, that's the kind of thing. As I was saying earlier, I think when you have two images now, it's something I've sort of discovered, or not discovered, but like with experience, I'm having a stronger and stronger opinion on the matter, is that if you have two images that are supposed to show like the sort of integration of the project from two sides, I would always suggest having one that is way closer and like cropping the building kind of, and the other one that can actually be further, so this one could actually be further. Maybe I would still keep this one, but I would have this one from this side and still having the framing showing the infrastructure. There was a couple of photos that would actually have fit, so I don't remember honestly why we went with this one, but I think it's definitely not a selling one. So that's another bad decision, I think, but it's that happens. The comments for the lighting that I'm doing here would apply as well here. I think I would have like the same type of atmosphere for both. I'm actually not gonna cover the interior one because I'm lazy and it's already 15 minutes in, I think, so I don't want to drag on too much because I think this is already an interesting topic, and I've had like some I don't know, I think like this is already quite interesting for people in general to have a look at that kind of content. In terms of, there's one thing I was quite, well, I won't say proud, but one thing that I want to mention just in case, when you integrate on photographs, just make sure that you match everything when you insert your, well, this is not the photograph, but basically what I'm saying is, and you put someone somewhere, make sure that the noise level, the chromatic aberration that you have in your photo, that the saturation and the overall lighting match. And especially the two things you want to match is the pixel density and the noise. Because if you have like a perfectly noiseless guy here, it will stand out from your photograph and then it will really look fake. So that's the thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with photographs, so that your stuff blend in properly. Because if you really do like a nice work on the lighting, on the hue, saturation, etc., and like you properly cut the thing, etc., if then you have like a poor consistency between the noise and the blurriness and the pixel density, then it's gonna look, it's gonna still look pretty artificial. So that's it for this project. I hope you can see like how sorry I feel about this set of images, because they're pretty, like, they're, as I said, they're not bad, but they're really not doing justice to the project, which I see it again now was a really interesting one that could have done, that could have deserved like way better visuals. As I hope, again, for that type of teardown series, I hope you've learned some interesting tips and maybe like learned some rule of thumbs or like automatism that you can integrate in your own workflow when you deal with maybe a similar project in the future. Or, as I said last time, it will motivate you to revisit your past projects with a new eye and be like, oh yeah, I really did a shitty work at that time, and maybe I should actually, how can I say? Maybe I should actually revisit the image and redo the renderings if I'm really motivated. Although, well, honestly, I don't have the free time for that. But it's still like a good exercise to at least theoretically assess what you would do differently. So that will be it for this video, and I'll see you in the next video that should be next week, probably. So yeah, cheers guys, and see ya.